good afternoon, or good evening if you're far east of here and the sun is already saying its goodbyes. Welcome to the Schmooze. The dictionary defines the word schmooze as, and I realize many of you are already not taking me seriously when I start to refer to dictionary definitions as important sources. But this is important. The dictionary defines the word schmooze as talk in a cozy or intimate manner to someone, typically in order to manipulate, flatter, or impress them. Which has me wondering what exactly Craig is going to try to talk us into. Full disclosure, that is in fact the second definition offered. You can look up the first on your own time, but I'll give you a hint. It involves the word cozily. Which brings me to what I want to tell you. I hope you're convinced at this point that I actually have something to tell you. Craig said to write a poem, and here we are. How do you like it so far? I can tell you this. Anything that delays the end of the Sabbath, even dictionary definition nonsense, is exactly what you want. It was a whole new world when this started just last night, and now the world is growing a beard as the darkness starts to take over. Darkness as in the absence of light and not a darkness in your soul. If you have a darkness in your soul, you should talk to someone about that. And please, talk to someone. Just because we can't leave the house doesn't mean we can't schmooze. Get on the electric horn. Do a face tube. Connect with someone on U-Book. In-person warmth is the best, but let our technology let us electronically commingle. Let's plug into each other. It's nice to Google Meet you. And how do you feel about an animated head giving you deep advice about your soul? Write your answers down and mail them to Jerusalem. Maybe they'll put them in the wall or next to your tree. God, I wish I knew where my tree was. As for us, we feel pretty good about this. We're glad you're here. Let the schmooze begin.
יד ביד, אחד עם השני, עם אחד עם לב אחד, כן אנו נדליק משואת עולם, נדליקה כעם אחד. יד ביד אחד אחד, כן אנו נדליק, אם אין קמח, אין תורה, אם אין תורה, אין קמח, אם אין קמח, אין תורה, אם אין תורה, אין קמח. It can be you, it can be me, it can be all the people all over the world. Lending, caring, sharing hand in hand. It can be you, it can be me, it can be all the people all over the world. Lending, caring, sharing hand in hand. It can be Rick doing a poem. It can be lots of people all over the world. Spending time and saying Shabbat Shalom. It can be you, it can be Ed, it can be my favorite rabbi in the whole live world. Joining me right now. Hey Ed, why not give it a twirl? Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Ed, are you here?
I'm right next to you. Socially distanced, but close in spirit.
You love you. What about Rick? Gotta love Rick Lupert.
Love Rick Lupert. Even if he's just a little head on my screen, I still love him. He's
With
not that much bigger in life either. So.
Did you see his nose? You got to just go boo, 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 boo. So, you're the rabbi. You're the wise one who is going to try to figure this all out for us. And how you doing?
It's simple, Craig. Everything God created in the world, God said it's tov, it's good. The only thing God ever said lo tov about is being alone. And that's the secret of this moment. Socially isolated? No. We're physically isolated. But as souls, we're together in this, and we're here to take care of each other. And that's what this moment means. And there's no better place to be on Shabbat than in Craig's living room. And there's no better people to be with and to be with than all the folks who have joined us. Old friends from camp, old friends from school, old friends from life, and new friends who have come to share these special moments with us.
Eddie, we met like how many years ago? Because like a lot of, I think it's intriguing. I would say, what is a memory that you have of us or then? Like,
well, I remember time in camp together. I remember time in school together. And I remember some sad moments together when you came to take care of me when I was ill. And I've been with you at moments of sadness with your family. And I know how much we've leaned on each other. And that's what gets you through. It's the only way to survive as a human being. The only way to survive. So I'll tell you a story about a song you wrote for me once. I actually have a piece of a song of Craig Taubman's. I was a school principal when I first started my work as a rabbi. And there was a kid in the school, beautiful, wonderfully verbal second grader, who was having night terrors. She'd wake up in the middle of the night screaming. So the parents brought her to me and said, see if you can help the kid. And I sat with this beautiful young kid. And I said, why are you so scared? What are you scared of? And she looked at me and she said, I'm scared of people dying. I said, my God, you're 7 years old. How do you know about this? Did someone in your life ever die? And she said to me, well, the dog died. And I was being sympathetic. And I said, oh, I'm sorry your doggy died. She said, no, he was old and smelly and sick. It was time for him to go. But when the dog died, I remember that my grandma died. I said, when was that? She said, I was 3 and I didn't get to go to the service and it hurt. And the more I think about my grandma, I realize that my grandma is my mommy's mommy. And if mommy's mommy could die, then mommy, and who would take care of me? And I thought to myself, my God, here is a 7-year-old kid who's just discovered the scary vulnerability of being a human being who loves. So I thought, what do you say to such a kid? And suddenly from somewhere, I had this idea. I said, take a piece of paper and a marking pen and make me a list of all the people in the world who love you. Who loves you? And she started to write down a list. Mommy loves me. Daddy loves me. My other grandma loves me. My grandpa loves me. Uncles, aunts, cousins, my teacher, the rabbi, the doctor, the lady at the supermarket who gives me cookies. Everybody, all these people in my circle, they love me. So I said, take this list, and before you go to bed tonight, read it out loud. And if you do wake up in the middle of the night scared, read it out loud. And the night terrors stopped. And I realized that's what we do, you know? That's what this prayer means. So there's a prayer in the service that says, V'havienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz. Gather us up. And the tradition is you gather your tzitzis, your talis, the fringes of
Maybe
the
you
talis.
want to explain what the tzitzis is. I think
It's the fringes on a Jewish prayer shawl. You gather them up. But what you're really doing is gathering up all the people you love in the world. And in a moment of vulnerability like now, let's gather up all the people we love in the world and hold them right here, hold them close, and know that we are loved and we love them. And that's what makes us the people we are. So I did this once, I explained this once to my friend Craig, and he wrote a song. And I'm so proud that I have a teeny part of a Craig Taubman original.
Get out your fringes. Thank you, Ed. Get out that piece of paper sometime tonight. Write it down. It's a great story. V'havienu l'shalom, 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 Vahavienu leshalom meharba kanfot haaretz. Collect into one your memories. Collect into one your hopes and your dreams. Collect into one your destiny. Collect into one all that life brings. Vahavienu leshalom, leshalom, leshalom. Collect into one. Vahavienu leshalom, me'arba kanfot haaretz. These are the fringes that bind us together, bringing us closer together in peace. We are the fringes, we're coming closer. We are the fringes, precious and sweet. Vahavienu leshalom, leshalom, leshalom. Vahavienu leshalom, me'arba kanfot haaretz. The promise of our past, the prayers of today, the dreams of tomorrow, you show us the way. You are true and enduring, awesome, revered. We are the fringes and we're drawing near. Vahavienu leshalom, leshalom, leshalom. Vahavienu, vahavienu leshalom, me'arba kanfot haaretz. There you go. I'd like to bring into Eddie, our little circle right now, a gentleman that you've met a couple of times. He's the poet in residence at the Pico Union Project. And he's a spoken word wizard. His name is Jason Chu, and I adore him. And Jason, why don't you share a piece of poetry with us, a story with us now? What do you got in mind?
Hi, everybody. It's Jason Chu. It's an honor to join you today, to worship, to celebrate, to come together in community. So Craig hit me and he said, share a poem. And I asked him what kind of poem. And Craig told me it's to share a poem about angels. So I don't have poems about angels, but I have poems about messages from God. And I wanted to share this poem with you because when I think about messages from God or messages from the universe or something from a higher power that's beyond us, I think about my grandmother. So this is a poem about my grandmother and about how she, to me, has been a messenger from God. Russell Jung says, Chinese people can speak 2 love languages fluently, food and sacrifice. Every time I visit her apartment, my grandma does 2 things. She cooks pan-fried dumplings, my favorite dish since I was a child, and she presses a new $100 bill into my hand. Benjamin Franklin wrapped in a red envelope, like an emperor in a robe. She lives across from the Montgomery Mall, where we would walk after lunch, bellies straining to search up and down the aisles of KB toys. I would lie on her pink-purple carpet through the late afternoon, playing with my new action figure or Lego set as she watched the Chinese news on her old TV. Grandma is an immigrant, worked to support 3 sons, knows how to leave everything behind, knows that these dollars are nothing more than a nursery of fading green, a paper-thin cocoon where labor transforms into life. What kind of idiot collects shed skin and dead hair and calls that life? Me. For 2 months, my friend David hid every mirror in his house, turning frames and taping up newspaper until he was living in a perpetual state of tornado readiness. He said the more he looked at himself, the less time he had to see others. I'm afraid to accept that I've forgotten how to see you, grown used to seeing what I need from you. Terrified to confess that I care more about what I'm saying than who I'm saying it to. That's not language, it's a mirror. And isn't our world filled with mirrors, kisses like cold glass, and songs clear and clean like the air in a bank? Maybe the answer is learn from Grandma. I'll cook you your favorite food, press into your palm my stored labors, which you will spend on late afternoons with me. If I'm going to live in a world where kisses taste like summer and songs sing like 2 palms warm against each other, I will need to speak in a language I haven't yet mastered, but need to. Russell Jung says, Chinese people speak 2 love languages fluently, food and sacrifice. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Wow. Wow. Angels, Craig. Their world is full of angels. Have you seen them? I met one just the other day. I was in line at the supermarket. Yeah, long line at the supermarket. And there was a woman ahead of me, and she was complaining that she couldn't find toilet paper, which is the most valuable commodity in the world right now.
No shit.
And the guy, as it were, and the guy behind me had a 12-pack. So he opened it up and handed her 6 rolls, just threw them in her cart. And the cool thing was when they got to the checker looked at this, and at first he was thinking, what do you charge somebody for 6 rolls of a 12-roll toilet paper? And then he just shook his head and said, just go. Just take them and just go. Even in a market in the line at the supermarket, there are angels waiting, Craig. There are angels waiting for us. All over, they're waiting for us. All we got to do is don't give them hugs, but tell them welcome. Tell them shalom aleichem, welcome. Glad you're here.
Introduce, how do you know Donnie? Where did you meet Donnie?
A long time ago as well, when he was on the road with a show that he was doing about his grandfather, which was a remarkable statement of his biography.
Wasting time with Harry Davidowitz.
Wonderful show, wonderful spirit, deep guy, wonderful teacher, wonderful musician.
Yeah. Welcome, Danny Maseng. Danny Maseng.
Welcoming the angels for Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malchei HaMelachim, Hakadosh, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Hakadosh, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem Leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malchei HaMelachim, Hakadosh, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Hakadosh, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Malachei הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, מלאכי עליון, ממלך ממלך, מלאכי המלאכים, הקדוש, הקדוש ברוך הוא, הקדוש, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
I'm searching for words, for the words that describe, make sense, or at least comfort. Words that summon me from the depths of my solitude. In the night, there is darkness, restless attempts to sleep, twisting and turning into the shadows. As I seek a comfortable pose, I bring my knees to my chest, folding my dreams in half. Will the crease ever come out? And in the day, there are silent attempts to find hope, twisting, turning toward the light as I look for direction, a path, the way. It's not easy to find the way. And so I lift my eyes to the mountain. Heaven lays her head upon the mountaintop and I begin to climb. What is the source of my help? I climb and gaze upon the vistas, more mountains, more horizons, never-ending moments where heaven meets earth, never-ending possibilities to meet the divine. Lift me, carry me, offer me courage. Help me understand life's sharpest paradox, that to live is tragic and wonderful, painful and awesome, dark and filled with light. I lift my eyes to the summit, and as I climb, I find my help in the turning and twisting it takes to ascend. I have found a path, and it is worn and charted by all those who are summoned from solitude. I take their lead, and I know that in the most essential way, I am being carried up the mountain. And even now, dear God, even now, I am not alone.
Karyn Kedar, Rabbi Karyn Kedar from
Wonderful. Chicago.
BJB, Chicago. Love her.
Right. Wonderful.
El Heharim, Me'ayin, Yahavo Esri. I'm gonna keep on playing the background, and you're gonna have to vamp a good story, something provocative, not too inappropriate. Oh, Rabbi, where are you looking to now? What is your strength? What fills you up? Your favorite story?
Well, there was a rabbi once who asked his disciples a simple question. How do you know when the night is over and the day begins? And the students thought this was an important legal question, because there are rituals that have to be done at certain times. So the most senior of the disciples thought and said, Rebbe, I know the night is over and the day begins when I look in the distance and I see a home. And I know it's my house, or I know it's the house of my neighbor. And the second student said, no, Rebbe, I know it's night is over and day begins when I see the line that divides my field from the field of my neighbor. And the third said, I see an animal in the distance, and I know if it's mine or the animal that belongs to my neighbor. And the Rebbe begins to weep. He says, is that all it means to you? Is that all faith is? A way of dividing you from me, and yours from mine, and ours from theirs, and us from them? Disjunction, separation, dividing. No, children, no. Night is over and day begins when you look to the one who sits beside you, and you see that's your brother, and that's your sister. And when you see into the heart of the one beside you, and that's your brother, and that's your sister, then the long night is over and the day begins. That's the only way we will get through this. Us and them is a lie. And every time it's told, it destroys something of us in the world. But when we see that them is us and us is them and we are one, and one is the most powerful word in the whole tradition, then we will begin to heal the world, and the night will be over, and the day will arrive.
Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Sing it, Eddie.
Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad.
Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Hine ma tov manayim shevet
achim gam yachad.
So Ed, right before we got on, I read something to you that was sent to me by a gentleman yesterday. His name is Edmund Rodman, and he's like a master historian, and he is doing research about the Jewish community of downtown Los Angeles, which started like in the 1860s or so. There was 1870s. There was Temple B'nai B'rith, which now is called
Wilshire Boulevard Temple.
And there was the first conservative congregation here on the West Coast, which was Sinai Congregation, which was Sinai is Sinai Temple, right, where I was bar mitzvahed. I went to Hebrew school. Louise and I got married there, and you were at the wedding. You were at the wedding? I don't know. Were you at the wedding?
No, you were at mine.
Okay.
You still owe me an invitation to a wedding.
So that first home of Sinai Temple, which was built in 1909, built by immigrant Jews from Russia, Orthodox Jews, who said, we want something different. And they built a synagogue, a congregation in downtown LA, not in Beverly Hills because there was no Beverly Hills, not in Pasadena because Jews weren't allowed to live in Pasadena, right? Not in Hancock Park. No Jews. You know what that could lead to, right? Dancing. Mm. So this congregation that I was bar mitzvahed at, this is their first home, and their rabbi in 1918 was dealing with something. January 10th, 1919. Edmund Rodman sent this to me. He said, I don't know if you want to share it. Congregation Sinai mourns the untimely death of David Miller, one of the younger members who passed away Saturday night, December 28th, at the age of 24 years old, a victim of influenza.
Right.
He was the son-in-law of Mr. and Mrs. Moses Tannenbaum. He is survived by his widow, a sister and brother in this city of angels, and parents, a brother and two sisters in Denver, Colorado. Services were conducted by Rabbi Moses Rosenthal at the Ferris Parlors, Tuesday, December 31st. Mr. Miller was very enthusiastic for the new undertakings of Sinai Congregation, and his personal interest serves as an example for the younger men who have recently attached themselves to Congregation Sinai. So to put it in perspective, right? Mm-hmm. Congregation Sinai was sold in 1926 to the Welsh Presbyterian Church. And for 88 years, the Welsh Presbyterians, as you know, took care of this beautiful synagogue. And in 2013, 88 years later, Louise and I bought the oldest synagogue building in Los Angeles, mm-hmm. where this man davened. The same influenza, or a similar influenza, that is hurting so many people today was killing people in 1919. And, nature is one thing. It's powerful. It's very powerful. And sometimes we need to be reminded as human beings that human nature is powerful too. But nature knows the way. We just have to be in harmony.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. When my first pulpit was in Dallas, Texas, synagogue was very old, like Sinai. And there was a cemetery that was even 10 years older than the synagogue. And I was doing a service there once. I had a little bit of time. And I took a walk, and I found that in the core of the cemetery, the oldest part, there was a whole line of tiny little graves with the single name of a person and the date 1925. It's a custom in Jewish faith that when children died, they bury them at the edge of the cemetery. And this whole long line of graves, all dated 1925. So there was a woman who worked at the synagogue gift shop, Tilly, and Tilly was very old, it was in the late 80s, early 90s. I went back to the synagogue and I found Tilly and I asked her, what happened in 1925? And this woman who was about 89 years old starts to cry. And I held her in my arms. I said, what happened? She said, a flu epidemic. And it took all the children in the community, including my daughter. And this was already 80, 70 years later, 60 years later. And this woman was crying. Epidemics are actually normal. What we experienced growing up when we got shots as kids and didn't have to experience polio or smallpox or diphtheria or typhus, God forbid, all these terrible things. That's been the great blessing of modern medicine. That's the godliness of modern medicine, to give us the ability to grow up without any of those fears. And what we're experiencing now, in a small way, is maybe a small inoculation to help us remember the kind of fear that our ancestors grew up with and lived with.
I got a song. I wrote this for the birthday. Wow, this just dawned upon me. The birthday of David Elcott and Shira Milgram, their 60th birthday. And I'm realizing like in a couple of days, I'm going to be 62. So,
are you old?
They were so old. I'm writing their, the song for their birthday. Wow. David Elcott was my mentor, still is.
A great teacher.
Great teacher. Shira is just a
wonderful rabbi.
Like amazing. Like she's done stuff. I adore them both. And this is their song, a reminder for all of us, I hope. Slow and steady, life's not a race. Every season leaves its own trace. Love and live at your own perfect pace. Don't forget, you can sing your own song. Take the time to step to the side. Breath is special, it's fuel for our ride. Feel the warmth as it fills you inside. Don't forget, you can sing your own song. There are those who often suggest what they think is right, wrong, or best. In the end, live a life of no regrets. Don't forget, you can sing no regrets. Why not sing? It is best when you sing your own song.
Thanks, Greg. That was nice.
Yeah. So this next guy, I haven't known him nearly as long as you, but I've traveled all over the world with him. And he's shown me places that I never, ever could have imagined. We've been to Morocco. We've been to Argentina. We've been to Israel. We've been to Germany and Austria. But the places that he's shown me that are most memorable are pieces of him and pieces of me that I never saw. His generosity of spirit, he just knows when to show up, and he knows when to be quiet. He knows when to be present and loud, and he knows when to back off. He has a generosity of spirit that I adore. His name is Rabbi Steve Lowenstein, another Chicago dude. There's the dudette, Rabbi Kedar, and there's Rabbi Lowenstein. Steve, share something with us, please.
Hey Craig, it's great to be with you. We're all feeling so many different emotions tonight and every night. We feel the world has changed, and it has. We know that this is temporary, but it just doesn't feel that way. We realize things will be different when we return back to our regularly scheduled lives. For all of us, we mourn. We mourn the loss of normalcy, the fear of the economic toll, the loss of connection, people-to-people contact. This is hitting us, and we're sad. The storm is coming. There's something bad out there. It's so confusing for so many people. I've come to realize that the goal is just to find the balance in the things that we're thinking, to let go of what we can't control, to calm ourselves, and to come into the present. We don't know when this pandemic will end, 3 more weeks, 3 more months, but it will end. The fact is, it is temporary. We feel the grief and we keep going. But what we need now more than ever before is we need gratitude, to be grateful for all that we have, all that we take for granted. We do have a roof over our heads. We have food on our table. We see the sun every morning and the moon every evening. These little things are what really matter in life. In the days and weeks ahead, I hope we can appreciate every single moment in our lives, because we never know when it might be our last. And when that last one does come, make sure you're grateful for the life you've lived, rather than being full of regret and bitterness. Craig, our 18-year friendship reminds me every single day how grateful I am for you and for Louise as we continue together. You inspire, you create, you bring us together, you take us to a whole different level. Every single day you teach me gratitude. I love all your music, but there's one song that's so transformative. Every single time I hear Biyado, it shakes me to my core. Biyado afid ruchi, my soul I give to you, my spirit in your care. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Hold me in your hand. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Safely in your hand. So keep singing, keep bringing us together, and keep reminding us to be grateful.
Sweet. You know what's crazy though, Eddie? Did you notice that Karyn's backdrop was the exact same backdrop as Steve's? Like the books in the background? Is this like something you graduate rabbinic school from URJ, or not URJ, from, you're muted, Eddie. I can't hear you. Ah! Anybody hear Eddie?
HUC.
HUC, thank you. I don't know. So I'll do Biyado for what's his name, for Rabbi Steve. Biyado af kiduchi. And Eddie, think of a great story after. This is the story. This is the one you got to hit it out of the park. Oh my God, Rabbi Nina.
That's
Nina's
Nina.
behind you. No, behind you.
Come on, move over here so you can see.
Hi, Craig.
Nina.
This is Theo says hi.
Wait a minute. Where's my Theo? Come here, buddy. My Theo. Come here, Theo.
Theo, the rabbi's dog.
Yeah.
Come here, Theo. Come here.
He's been studying the Shulchan Aruch.
Come here. Come on. Come here. Up. There's my Theo. He doesn't want to come up. Okay.
Is Louise
So,
there?
a good story. Here we go. Beyado av kidruchi ve'eti shan ve'aira ve'imruchi geviati Adonai li ve'lohira ve'imruchi geviati Adonai li ve'lohira. My soul I give to you, my spirit in your care. Draw me near, I shall not fear. I am safely in your hands. Draw me near, I shall not fear, for I am safely in your hands. The reason I'm smiling, it just struck me, this little anecdote. So Theo Bickel was in the hospital, and I went to visit him in the hospital, in the Tarzana hospital, and I go up to the room, and I bring my guitar, and I'm singing for him, and this was like years before he died. But I'm singing, and it didn't look good, and I'm like scared, and I start to sing, Be'ado av kidruchi, and he's like humming along, right? And then I stopped and he said, I'm not a big fan of most of your songs, but this song is going to get you a place in heaven. Phew! Woo!
And if Theo Bickel says it, woo!
If Theo Bickel says it, Hevia said it to me, right?
God, I heard it.
Captain Von Trapp. Or whatever. All right, Eddie, got a story?
Well, at moments when you're
take me out, Eddie, right there in the middle. Okay, take me out.
Whatever.
There you go. Oh my God, look at that punim.
Yeah, only a mother could love. When you're really feeling fear, and you're really feeling vulnerability. So what we like to do is go to a place where we are in our imaginations, where we're safe. And one of the places that the happiest and safest in my life is a lawn at Camp Ramah, California. Every camp has a lawn. And on that lawn, we would gather on Shabbos afternoon with popsicles. And it was my job as a Rosh Hashanah to tell stories, which is where I learned how to be a rabbi, on that lawn with those popsicles. In fact, if people would bring popsicles to my synagogue, the sermons would be a lot better. And one of the stories we used to tell the kids is an old Jewish folk tale, but it's profoundly wise. There's a folklore that when a person dies in this world, the soul ascends to heaven where it's judged. And if a soul is meritorious, it is sent to reward in heaven. And if it's wanting, it is sent for remediation in hell. And there showed up a soul one morning, that was even. They put its mitzvahs on one side of a scale and its averas, its merits on one side and its sins on the other, and they balance completely. And so it was said, what do we do with the soul? And it was decided, we'll bring it to both places and let the soul decide where he wants to go. So an angel takes the soul by the hand. They get into an elevator. It goes down, down, down into hell. Elevator door opens up, and there's a beautiful lawn. It's a beautiful lawn and a mansion at the end of the lawn. And the angel and the soul, they walk into the mansion. They walk through the halls of the mansion into a gorgeous dining room where there's a huge table. And that table is set with every delicacy one could have possibly imagined in the world. And the soul wonders, is this hell? How can this possibly be hell? And then the people who live there come in, and they are gaunt and sick and hungry and wanting. And they sit at the table, and the soul watches with horror. Because in this place, nobody can move their arms. The arms are stiff, and nothing they can do. They reach for the delicacies, and all they can do is struggle to put them in their mouths, but they can't move their arms. And so the delicacies remain out of touch. And the souls of hell, they starve. And they cry in their pain and anguish. And the soul says, take me away. I need to see something else. And so God decrees, and the angel takes the soul on the elevator up to heaven. And when the door opens up, it's the same lawn. It's the same mansion. It's the same dining room. It's the same delicacies. And the soul says, not again. But this time sees the difference. In heaven, the angels, the people of heaven come in, and they're happy and joyful. And they too can't move their arms. But the difference is that each person there in heaven takes of the food of the table and turns and feeds the person beside them. And that's the only difference between a heaven and a hell. Whether we turn and feed the ones who sit beside us, whether we reach across our lonely subjectivity, our loneliness and our aloneness and our fear and our vulnerability, and we turn and feed the people who are beside us. That's the only difference between heaven and hell. The first Lubavitcher Rebbe, Shner Zalman of Ladi, was once asked, what do you do if you lose faith in God? And the Rebbe shook his head and said, you know, it happens to every religious person. There's a moment when you lose faith in God. You can't believe that life has meaning. You can't believe that there is a God who brings goodness to the universe. So what do you do at that moment? You go out and do one act of kindness, one act of selfless goodness. And in that moment, you will feel the presence of God in your fingers, in your hands, and in your person. So no matter how vulnerable we feel, no matter how pained we are, no matter how frightened we are, go out and do one act of selfless goodness. Pick up the phone and call an elderly relative, an elderly friend who is shut in and alone. Pick up something extra at the grocery store and pass it on to someone who is hungry. Pick up the phone and call a doctor you know, and just give them a word of strength. Pick up the phone and call a nurse you might know and tell them that you care for them. For all of those who stand between life and death, between sickness and health, between us and this evil out there, the angel of death. We don't have blood on the lintel this year. We have doctors and nurses, researchers, specialists, technicians who are fighting for a cure. Reach out and give them a little bit of strength and a little bit of gratitude, and something will change inside of you. And if not in the world, at least inside of you, you will feel the presence of heaven and banish the presence of hell. Wish you a really good Shabbos and a really good week. Take care of each other.
Blessed love, holy love, sacred love, abundant love, source of love, let your love shine down on me. From below, from above, love I hope I'm worthy of, oh source of love, let your love shine down on me. Before the morning light, I already feel it shining. Before I open up my eyes, I already see it shining. When my road is rough, I can feel your love, and that's enough for me. Blessed love, holy love, sacred love, abundant love, source of love, let your love shine down on me. As above, so below, love from whom all blessings flow, oh source of shine from below and from above. Protect my family and be a light in me. Shine on me and the ones I love. Shine from below and from above. Protect my family and shine through me. Be a light in me. Be a light in me. La,
That's beautiful.
Chava Mirel, a shining light.
Just beautiful.
Yeah, she's just one of those. You know, what is this called here? You know, that the angel touches here, right?
Right.
She's touched. Chava has just this. Her dad's a rabbi.
We can forgive her for that.
Well, we'll ask your kids. Eddie, I'm gonna say just a few words. Is there maybe a blessing you want to give everybody here?
Say your words. I'll bless at the end.
Look, this is my podcast. You say your words. All okay. I found this. I don't know why I found this, but I think it's interesting. It's something that I wrote on my birthday a couple of years ago. While my body may be winding down, my soul continues to grow. I feel the challenge, my obsessions to still hold on to my youth. I'm looking for a cure. I don't know where it might be. Maybe I need to pull back, slow down, create more unplugged moments, be alone with myself, alone with my family, with Louise. I study nature and learn from the trees. Those with the deepest roots are the ones that survive the winds, floods and fires, providing shade and comfort for the saplings in their shadows. We can't get tired of nature, only our approach. Those are my final words.
That's beautiful, Craig. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this with me, Eddie.
It's always a joy to be with you, Craig. It's a joy. Sometimes it's a surprise, but it's a joy.
It's a joyful surprise.
Right. Craig, remember that in the Jewish faith, we practice what we call a mitzvah. Mitzvah is often translated vernacularly as a good deed. And that's a sweet translation, but it's not accurate. What it really means is an imperative. It means a discipline. And I want to recover that meaning this week, because this week and the week after, it's going to get harder. As the disease spreads and more of the ones we love are going to be afflicted, as the social isolation begins to get to us, as the fear of the financial collapse begins to get to us, we're going to get on each other. And it's going to be terribly difficult. And we have to remember that it's a discipline. That learning to listen to the people who live in my house and understand and forgive them, that not letting the irritations and aggravations of this moment get to us, that remembering that we owe each other all of our love and support and help, that's a discipline. Sometimes we'll feel it. Sometimes we'll be inspired to share toilet paper. Sometimes we'll be inspired to share love. But even when we're not, it's necessary at this point to just practice kindness as a discipline, compassion as a discipline, forbearance and forgiveness as a discipline. Sometimes we're ready to give each other that gift, but even if we're not ready to give it as a gift, we have to give it as an obligation, because it's the only way that we're going to get out of this. And one last note, I wanted to say a shout out. Kids in my school ask me Rabbi, where's God in all of this? And there's a lot of good theology about where God is, but it's very simple for me. I have a friend who's a medical researcher who's putting in 18 hours a day. He's put aside all of his regular research to try to find a cure for this, and then a vaccine. I have friends who are doctors who've put their own lives on the line, wearing masks and gloves and face shields, but frightened because they don't want to bring this home to their own kids, and they will stand between life and death. Nurses who give of their hearts and souls to their patients. Friends who have gone out, teenagers in the community who are going out shopping for senior citizens. It's possible to see this malady as a great curse, but somehow, sometimes when these things happen, the angels come out. The angels within us come out. The godliness within us comes out. So find that moment of kindness that the world asks of you this week. That gift of forbearance and patience, that gift of giving and kindness, that gift of compassion. Go do that. Bring God back into the world. Let it be a better week. Let it be a week of health, if not out there, at least in here. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Rick Lupert. Thank you, Rick Reck, too. What the heck? Rick Lupert and Danny Maseng and Karyn Kedar and Jason Chu and my sister who put all this together. And
Chava Mirel.
Chava and Steve Lowenstein. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you to our parents who brought us here. Shabbat Shalom. Our teachers and our doctors and everybody together. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat.
Shavua Tov.
Shalom. Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat. Ed?
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
See you later, Eddie.
Take
Shavu.